Good evening. This is the West Shore Photography Club. This is Monday evening, March 25th, 2024. This evening's program is Mike Donovan's going to be our image reviewer, and we have 12 images that have been submitted for review this evening. I wanted to have a couple of program notes. One of them is if you would like closed captioning, you can do that. That's activated. If you go to the bottom of your screen, if that's where you keep the bar, you'll see a section called closed captions, and you can select that and in your language that you may want. Also, we wanted to suggest that everybody mute themselves and only be able to unmute yourself when you want to talk by just pushing on the space bar. That'll keep any ambient noise down. So like I said, tonight's program is an image review, but before we get started, we wanted to go over some of the trips and the recent things that we've been doing here at the West Shore Photography Club. This week, we had a trip to Maple Press, and Kurt, you were there at that, I believe. And do you want to give folks an update on it?
Yes. Yeah, we were at Maple Press. I think it was Tuesday the 19th. And Rich Hudson put that together for us there. It was a great tour. Had about 10 people. Nice group. They really did a good job taking us around and showing us the process of printing and the book binding. And yeah, we had some nice pictures, I think, posted on Facebook.
Okay. Okay, thank you. This past Wednesday evening, we had a mini workshop on cavern photography and getting ready for the caverns. We had about 20 people there. That was the folks that registered for it. And we covered a couple topics about noise reduction and focus stacking and a few things like that. And then on Saturday, we went to the caverns themselves. So Mike, can you give us a little update on that?
Yeah, we had 20 people signed up, and all but one of us showed up on time. One of us slept, one of us overslept and showed up at 9 o'clock. I won't mention names, but I do see him here tonight. It was really, really good. It was there were a lot of people there, but we were able to stay out of each other's ways. There was true courtesy displayed. Everybody got, hopefully, the shots they wanted. The lighting was difficult, but it was also beautiful. It was all artificial. So yeah, it was a good trip, definitely worthwhile. Okay. And we were the only ones in. We were in before the general public, so that was nice.
Good. Okay, thanks, Mike. Just as a note, we have our tips and trips meeting and program sessions for the next 3 months. We have a meeting here at one of our houses to plan that for this coming next quarter. We have Ian Plant as our next meeting. That is on April the 8th. And Ian Plant is probably one of the best photographers that I know as it relates to landscape and to leading lines. And his program is called Visual Flow, and that'll be on the 8th, April 8th, and you don't want to miss that. And it'll be a great presentation. Then on the 13th of April, we're going to Anderson Mill. Mary, you want to tell us a little bit about that trip?
Yeah, if you've never been there, I think you're gonna love it because it's like 3 floors, maybe 4, and I think there's a basement involved, and it has all kind of vintage items. At the mill is like non-working, of course, and there's a river behind it, so you can get photos inside and outside. And a lot of people bring a tripod to this one, so you might want to bring a tripod and even a macro lens if you want, because there's going to be a lot of things you can get close up or even at a distance. But it's an interesting place, definitely interesting. I think everybody would like it.
No. If you've been to the Heishman's Mill that we did this winter rather, this is about 2 or 3 times as large as that. So there's no way people are going to get in your way. It's really cool. And I do want to mention again that if you would please mute yourself, and then if you want to speak, you press the space bar so we can hold off on any ambient noise. We have a program coming up on April the 22nd, before and after. Mark, you want to talk to us about that?
Sure. I mean, this is one that we've been doing for several years now, and it's one of my favorites. I get to host it, so I like it even more. But basically, what it is, you're going to take an image and show the raw image or the out of camera. I won't even say raw, the out of camera image, and then how you processed it, and talk about how you processed it, why you took the picture, and we tend to learn a lot in these kind of sessions because people will do something that's a little different than what you do in processing. You go, oh, that's clever. So I'm looking forward to it, and I hope lots of people join or submit images.
Uh, Thanks, Mark. And we had a discussion in the cavern on Saturday, and some of the folks were talking about the various programs that they use. On one capture the Capture One, Luminar, a number of them. And maybe at some point in time, we may want to have a session where we review very briefly with members showing some of the key features of the program, so people get an idea that there's more than just Lightroom and Photoshop, which is something that a lot of us happen to use. So
That's a good idea. We did that a couple of years ago with Capture One.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. There are some egrets starting to fly down in York, and Kurt, can you tell us what's going on down there and what our plans are for the year?
Yeah, the egrets are starting to show up. They're not in any great numbers yet, but they will be soon. We'd like to get a trip together sometime here in the beginning of April. And we'd like to see maybe a dozen, maybe as many as 20 egrets making their nests. And then we will probably follow that up about a month later down at Kiwanis Lake for the feeding. And that one will be, well, both of them here will probably be mentioned in a trip form by Joe. The first one probably won't be needing a tripod for that one there. That one's going to be birds in flight, so you're going to have to be able to move your camera around freely without having the restrictions of a tripod. But the second one, when we do the feeding, yeah, that one there, you probably want a tripod. You'll probably fix on one of the nest and then just wait for the moment to happen and capture that shot. There you go, Joe.
Okay, thanks, Kurt. One thing I'm going to ask for the trip we did recently, we've done a couple little pre-trip Wednesday night sessions where we think that there might be some learning opportunities on how to photograph. If you think that we should do one for the egrets down at Kiwanis Lake, I'd like you to just in chat, if you would say yes or no, then we'll just count them up during the meeting. But if you think a Wednesday night, how to photograph birds in flight and how to basically avoid getting blown out highlights, if you just put that into chat, and we'll try and organize something with Kurt for that. So, anybody else have anything topics for the go to the order?
Yeah, Joe, I've got one quick thing.
Okay.
I was reading Petapixel over the weekend, and National Geographic has a 6-part TV series called Photographers.
Oh.
They started a couple of weeks ago, so 2 episodes have already been done. They're doing 2 episodes tonight starting at 8 o'clock, and they're doing 2 episodes next, I think it's next Monday night at 8 o'clock. So that'll be all 6 of them. To see any of the other ones, you can see them on Disney Plus or Hulu. It's more about the photographers themselves and what makes them who they are than it is about looking at images from the article that I read, because I haven't seen them yet either.
Okay.
But just thought people would like to know about it.
Well, thanks. Anybody else have anything to share that you know of?
Hey, Joe, Don Uvik.
Yes.
Just briefly, if people are interested in seeing the Mount Joy owl at Little Chickies Park, it is out now, and it has two newborns. I was there a couple times already, so it's a good opportunity to get out there, and it does get a little crowded at times, but it's an interesting experience because you get up close and personal with them.
Is it still in the same Tree?
Same tree. Yep.
Yeah.
The only disadvantage is I understand they're there's a protest kind of going on that they're planning to build some condominiums right in that area.
Ooh,
So
okay.
yeah, I'll might pass that on to you later on, but there's some concern about that in the near future.
Dawn, could you do a favor and send me an email on that so we can get that out to the members in our email tomorrow morning?
Specifically on which the just going to Little Chickies?
Yes,
Okay, will do.
and like where it is.
Sure,
Okay, really appreciate that. Thanks.
no
Anything
problem.
else? Anybody else? Okay, if there's no more, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Donovan. Mike, I made you a co-host, so the floor is yours. Mike, are you there?
I'm working on it.
Okay, okay, just wanted to make sure you didn't fall off. And while he's working on that, anybody has any ideas for trips or speakers, please send them to us. We always are looking for ideas, and we try and keep our trips within an hour, but sometimes, like we did with just recently with the prison, we went for an hour and a half distance. But if you have any suggestions, if you know of any fairs or things like that that's coming up, just let us know so we can put that into our hat for planning purposes. Let me see. We have a very interesting speaker. Oh, where to go? Alan Ross is, we have him on the agenda to speak in somewhere in June. And Alan was a helper, I guess you would call it, for Ansel Adams for 5 years. He went with him. He worked in the dark room, and Alan still does dark room work at the Ansel Adams Gallery in California. And he was one of the guys that lugged the tripods up and set them up, and worked right beside him. And has lots of really interesting stories about him, his personality, and what his philosophy was in photography and how he wanted to convey the image. And he was a true believer that half of the work is in the capture and the other half is in the post-processing. But in his case, I think it was 10% in the capture and 90% in the post-processing, because he spent hours and hours in the darkroom. And so we have him coming on. That'll be a real treat for us, and we're looking forward to that one. So, Mike, are you having a hard time bringing that up? I can bring it up for you if you want, and then you could, and I'll move them forward and backwards for you. Let me see if he's still here.
He has himself muted.
Yes, I'm gonna,
Yeah.
I can't unmute. There he goes.
I
Perfect.
got it. Hmm. All right, let's see. I'm going to hit the share screen again,
Okay,
and I'm getting desktop 1. Share. Allow Zoom to share your screen. Screen recording. Let me click on, oh, hold it a second. All right. No good?
no, we don't see it.
All right, well, if you can call it up, go ahead before everyone starts to snore.
Okay, well, let me move this out of the way. And let me
I'll
move
put it
that.
on full screen mode, or will you do that?
Yeah, okay, just a second here. Okay. There we go. I'm gonna bring that up. Gotta get this window out of the way. Okay. Okay, so let me come in to Zoom and share that screen. Share the screen. Can you guys see that on the screen? West Shore Photography Club?
Yes, yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay. So let's me make this larger. And I may not be able to make it larger
That's
in
okay.
here. So I think I don't think I can make it larger because I don't have access to that. There you go. That's good.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
We can hear you just fine, Mike.
All right. Okay, I'm
Now,
ready to
before-
go to the first one.
Okay, before you start, let me just ask, can somebody give me some feedback? Is that okay to see, or were we okay there?
Looks good.
Perfect. Okay, good. Okay, Mike, I'm sorry.
No, it's my
Oh,
fault. I don't know what I
can we
did.
see the is the image on?
Pardon me? Hello?
Okay, I'm
It
ready.
needs to show that the picture is on,
Oh,
whether
well,
it's on or not.
you mean the actual images?
The covers of the slide.
I'm looking at West Shore Photography Club, March 25th, 2024 image review. So I'm looking at like the title page.
Yes.
That's what's on.
Okay, yes, I see it. I see
Okay,
it.
good. Okay,
Okay.
Mike.
Okay, now will you have to move the pictures
Yes.
forward, Joe?
I will.
Okay, go ahead then.
Can you see that change?
Yes, but I think. No, I think you're okay. Is that number one then?
Yes, that's number one.
All right. Okay, I can see it. Sorry about that. I don't have my assistant with me, so you know how it goes. One thing I like about the title is at the age of 74, generally you're not 3 times younger than the thing you're photographing. So that made it nice. The title just played right into that and made everybody feel young. So that was that was a good move. What I did was this evening is a little different. I broke each one into 4 sections: technical, composition, artistic, and processing. So that's what I'm going to use for my guide pretty much. As far as the technical aspects go, the exposure is good. You're revealing detail, which is really important in a shot like this. You are using, of course, a foreground, a middle ground, and a background. The fact that the theme is what it is really helps to play to that. Both walls are exposed very, very well. Textures are sharp. Composition wise, again, there's a foreground, a middle ground, and a background, and all of them are exposed. I don't want to say correctly, but they're exposed well. One thing I would mention is if you're going for a totally symmetrical composition, I would have advised that you step 1 step to the right when you take the shot. That would have made everything absolutely perfectly symmetrical if that's what you went for. So it's something that when you're taking the shot, you don't even notice. It comes along to somebody like me, and I have to be rude enough to pick it out. So when you take a shot or two, I know chimping is a bad word, but take a look at it, see what you think, move this way, move that way, do as many as you can. Now, if you're on a trip or on a tour, you can't always do that. So I totally understand. If it's someplace in the tropics or Florida, which it looks like it is, it's a good excuse to go back and say, Mike told me to take a step to the right, so I'm going back to the Bahamas or wherever it is. Also, one thing that I do want to mention is that you'll notice it's more weighted at the bottom, especially the first wall. That's actually a good thing. When you get a matte cut for a large image, the bottom is always a bit thicker than the other three sides. And that's because there's some kind of an optical illusion that in a larger print, if all four are the same size, the bottom one looks smaller. So notice that, especially on a larger print, there's a possibility it'll be weighted more at the bottom. So in this case, that's a good thing. As far as the artistic values, I really like that you used warm colors and cool colors. The orange and blue thing always works, and you see blue casts on the mud that's showing through, and you see the orange family at work on the walls, and then another cool color in the back, the green. So the warm color, cool color thing really does work together well. Let's see. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention about the green and orange is that you're using actually two secondary colors, and they generally will look good together as well. I like that you used organic shapes as opposed to man-made shapes. That's a great compositional tool to do. You also have some curves in the back, straight lines in the front. So the composition, I think, has a lot going for it. As far as the, let's see, that was the artistic section. The processing. What I might suggest is, on the left edge, you'll see two white spots. Now, I'm not being picky about dust spots or anything because there were hardly any this time, just one or two that I want to mention. But if you do go around the edge of your image and you see something halfway off, Pennsylvania Dutch, yeah, right there. What happens is your eye wants to complete that and see the whole entire thing, but you don't want people looking there. You want them looking at your topic, at your subject. And one other thing is, and I'm going to mention this a lot tonight, as far as values go. Some of you have heard of the zone system of printing black and white. The zone system works with white being a certain number. I think it's number 1 is white. And it goes to number 7. Some go to number 10 being black. Well, what happens is the values that are lightest seem to attract the most attention. And those two spots over there are a very, very light value, and they're not completed. So they're going to bring attention. So wipe those out and see what you think of that idea. Let's see. I think that's all that I have for that one. Who is the photographer?
It's Rich Scar.
Rich, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I always like your reviews. I always come up feeling more intelligent than when I took this shot, which is good. But also, I'm 75 years old now. I took this when I was 74. It felt good to be a year younger. Yeah, I tried to move around. You know, I like your comments about one step to the right. I tried different things, but I didn't spend a lot of time. This shot, this is an old building, obviously, an old house in Jekyll Island, Georgia. So it's I took a number of them, but I saw it. I really liked it. I played around with in Lightroom at the end. Interesting you're pointing out those two dots. I know you do that a lot, and I appreciate when you say that. You know, when it's easy to justify when you look at it that this is old and the walls are all kind of coming apart. You can excuse it. You don't even pick it up when you're the person who took the picture. But you're right. It does attract, your eyes over that way. So yeah, this is a fun picture to take. Thanks for your comments.
Oh, you're very welcome. And you're close enough that you can go back, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, I am. And I did recently.
Oh, good. Okay, Joe.
Okay. Oh, wait a minute.
All right, number 2 is Through the Glass Darkly. I can't see the title, so if I say the wrong thing because I can't read my sloppy writing, let me know.
Okay.
Which is a quote, actually, it's a biblical quote. It's from Corinthians, which is kind of cool. Now we see through a glass darkly, but later we will see clearly. So it's kind of neat to apply that to this image. Technically, if you look closely, there is shadow detail, which is really nice. It's not just totally blocked out or black or anything. I like that. You can see what's in between the two windows. You can see that there's something there. It's not just a totally black thing. The outside frame, the frame closest to us, is nice and crisp. You can see the actual nails that are holding it up. It has an old feeling, but also kind of a dreamy feel too, both. I like that. The white building in the back, now it may be because we're looking at it on screens rather than a print, but the building in the back looks a bit burned out, looks a bit white. And when I say a bit white, I know I've said this before, but if you decide to make a print out of that, your print set has no white, so it'll just let the paper show. And maybe you don't want that, maybe you do. It depends on the texture. So just know that on the screen, it's burned out. Again, it's part of the problem with judging from a screen, so you never know. Let's see. One thing that you can do to overcome that is expose on that far building. Set your camera to a spot meter, shoot right through the panes, and it'll give you a reading. You'll think, oh my gosh, that's really dark. But you'll be able to pull up some detail in the shadows. The other thing you can do, of course, is an HDR, high dynamic range. You can do that as well. Composition wise, it's definitely well balanced. I like the branches. The branches in the image relate to the branches in the reflection. So that's very cool, actually. That's good. It's also, I noticed that you have not, I should say, any convergence with the sashes, with the dividers of the windows. So that's good. I don't know if you did that on purpose. If you did, very good. If not, then lie and say you did. Again, I like the branches. I like the carry from the first window to the far window. I like the fact that you can see all of the rectangles. That's really nice as well. Artistic wise, black and white was a good choice here, I think. It's really about shapes and forms rather than colors. And colors do. I know of people who love black and white say that color just kind of provides another wall for you to hurdle to get to the actual shapes and images. And sometimes that's true. And in this case, I think it would have been. So good choice. Let's see. Oh, the old woods mesh with the wavy glass. So you're telling a story about how old this is, which is really, really nice. About the age of it, maybe the history of it, or the story of it. And your monochrome treatment plays into that as well. As far as processing goes, on the bottom right window pane, there's something that's in the room, but it's a little bit bothersome when you're studying the image. So you can see them. There's 4 little white fringes, I guess, right there. That's exactly right. I would remove that and see what you think of that. I would take that out of there. There's a couple dots, but the window is old. It's dirty. So if the dots are actually on the window, Joe, go to where where you just were with those 4 little white sections and go to this pane right above it. Yeah, there's a dot there, but it's not nearly so intrusive because its value is much, much less than the value of the white on the building in the back. So it's the building in the back that's jumping to you because its value is so light. That dot you see doesn't really leap out because you're busy looking at the white spot. Sorry, at the white building. And the reason I ask you to remove dust spots, if at all possible, is because they're drawing attention. This is part of the glass and part of the window, and its value is not destructive. So I can go with that for sure. Let's see. The bottom left of the middle window. Ah, yeah. On the sashes on the window, the middle window, we'll say, not the front one, but the next one. At the bottom of the next pane over to the right, Joe, and up. Right there. What I want you to do is to do a clone job there. I want you to take out that little spot and then clone one of the straight lines from up above it or the straight line beside it, because that's a little bit of a disturbance into your patterns. Okay? And even if it's really actually like that, I think it would help to do your cloning job there. And this brings up, I mentioned the values before. Hopefully you're getting the idea that they're important, and especially important in black and white, but also in color. What values are like the whiter side tend to want to come forward to you. And you can see that with the frame in the front. Who did this picture?
Mike, Rod Fraser. I don't think Rod's with us tonight. Are you, Rod? No, he's not.
Okay. All right, this is image number 3. Joe, I have the title as double arch framing. Is that correct?
That is correct. I'll read those off
Okay.
next for you, Mike.
All right, thanks. Technically, the lights that are hanging from the ceiling are really nice and crisp. They're nice and sharp, which makes them play against everything else that's nice and soft and calm and kind. The rich reds are almost like a bloody red. They're rich and they're dark. They're not like, I don't know, like a crimson that's jumping out at you almost. And I think that's helped by what I was just talking about. The fact that those higher values, the whiter values in the lights, tend to draw your attention away from the red. It's well exposed. You have shadow detail. You have no real hot spots. The lights, but you know, that can't be helped. That's how that goes. And I think in this case, it adds to it. It gives it a look of stars almost. But you can see behind it the detail in the ceiling. You can see the people. So good job with the exposure. Composition-wise, you have used repeated shapes to your definite benefit with the double arch there. Also with the banisters in the front. So the repeated verticals, the lights, the pillars, the banisters, the doorway in the back, the people, you've repeated and repeated, which is also called rhythm. I know repeated shapes is what we usually say, but I actually like the term rhythm better because it fits what you're doing with the photograph. Let's see. The people add a touch, definitely. I'm going to have a suggestion a little later. You might think I'm crazy, but I want you to try it. Artistic-wise, tremendous use of the red. Really, really good. Really, really good. You wouldn't think that it's subtle, but it's soft and smooth, I guess is what I'm looking at. And it's not washed out at all. It has a beautiful glow. So good work there. It's almost dreamlike. And I know some people might say, oh, well, it's not even sharp. Well, you can tell what was supposed to be sharp, and that's the lights, and they're sharp. The rest is just a dream. Now, processing wise, I have a suggestion that if you think I'm a knucklehead, then don't say it, just think it. I'd want you to try one of two things, just to try it. Number one, either remove the girl in the middle and let the two stand on the side, or remove the two on the side and let the girl stand in the middle. That way we won't have to decide which one we want to look at. This way you're kind of fighting a little bit back and forth. And the image is so beautiful, I don't want it to be stressful at all. So try it and see what you think. If you like it with the three, keep it with the three. I'm only making suggestions. You are the artist. Okay, who did this one?
Ray Conrad, are you
That
there,
would be
Ray?
me. Yeah, this is Ray here.
Ray, it's very cool.
Yeah, yeah. So I actually took this picture in Renwick, and that was near Washington, D.C. So yeah, so it's Renwick, and that's near NYC. So it was really nice. And behind the picture, they had neon lights actually that were really bright, and they were kind of fluttering in and out. So I tried to get a picture as best as I could in the distance I had. So yeah, it was real nice, and I got the shot. So I had many people trying to, like, I had to get them out of the way and get the right shot and everything. So, but I did what I had to do, and it was real nice. Yeah, and I think I should move the woman maybe in the back, or just remove her altogether. That was a good idea.
Well, try it and
So
see what
yeah,
you think.
I really do like the lights too, like what you said about the ceiling. I saw it and I thought it was a really good shot. So thanks for
Yeah.
your critique and feedback. Appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome.
This is
Okay,
the
this I
eclipse.
have as eclipse.
Yes.
Okay, and one thing that jumped to mind is a painter named Piet Mondrian, Mondrian. And if you'll look at his work, some of you know it already, I'm sure. It's lots of blocks of primary colors. And this made me think of kind of a black and white version of his work. It's Mondrian. Technicalities, it's the exposure is just tremendous. The blacks are blocked, but they're supposed to be in this case. They're supposed to be black as can be. Really, really nice. Rich, deep blacks and lots of grays. Now, when I say lots of grays, that's what I mean by values. You'll see that the top right square has a very, very different value than the bottom left square. So that tells you the light source, as does the shadow, of course. But that's what I mean by a value. Let's see, many, many tonal values, and a black and white picture that looks really rich looks that way because it has a lot of tonal values. I already mentioned the zone system. The lighting here is really, really beautiful. Really, really nice. The composition is a wonderful use of geometry, use of shapes. It's a tremendous example of negative space. That's the space where nothing is. And that, believe it or not, creates shapes of its own. So negative space is something also to keep in mind. The thing where there isn't anything. The sphere is placed just absolutely perfectly, especially if you're a fan of the rule of thirds, the suggestion of thirds. It's sitting there on a PowerPoint. The light source you can see is coming from top right, and it's throwing these two tiny little reflections that are absolutely awesome. Great imagination. It seems perfectly balanced. It really does. And part of that is because of the dark values in the bottom and the light values in the top. The lighter values actually are lighter in visual weight, but the sphere helps to balance that out. So really good work there with the composition. as far as processing goes, there are 3 small dust spots probably on your sensor. One is right behind the sphere between the 2 white areas. Go down at a 45, Joe. Now to your left and a little bit down, to your right slightly. Right on his point there, there's a small dust spot. And there's also one, I can't see it now, my glasses must be dirt. Oh, I know. On the 2 rectangles on the right edge, there's one on the lower third of that one. And there's one also in the bottom one. Now, you might think that this is ridiculous, but if you print this, those spots are there in perpetuity. So wipe them out because this is fabulous. Absolutely beautiful. Who did this one?
Hey, Mike, Dave Marchetto.
I knew it. Great job.
Hey, thanks so much for those comments. I'm going to have to really look for those rogue dust spots because they absolutely got away. It was a fun image. You know, with the eclipse coming up, I figured I had to come up with an astrological theme. So it's the best I could do. But you know, I was really paying a lot of attention to that hot spot on the you know, the upper sort of corner of the sphere there.
Yes.
It's not blown out, of course, and that was probably the biggest challenge because adjusting that threw everything off and all the rest of it. So it took a while to finally get it to seem comfortable.
Well, it really looks good. It's great.
Thanks so much for your review. Really appreciate it, Mike.
What is the black? Is that something you cut out?
It's a bookend, actually. You know those metal ones that you sort of slap up against the book, and you know they have the sort of T effect and all. So it was a bear kind of, you know, mounting that, you know, the sphere and the camera and the tripod and the light. It took a long time to literally get the stars aligned there.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Thanks again, Mike.
Sure. Okay, Joe. Thank you. This one reminded me of an artist that many of you probably know, MC Escher. Escher is what came to mind immediately. You look him up and you'll find all kinds of stairways. I like that it's gritty. I'm curious to hear if there was any kind of a texture put on it or exactly how it was done. There's detail in the black, which is always nice. I like that. The black and white was a good choice. That emphasizes your leading line for sure. Also, I like that when you get to the very, very bottom, that little square down there is different from any of the rest. And that is one reason that you go to it. You follow the banister all the way down, and there it is. And I want to talk again about a lighter value than what's out around it. So it will draw your attention for sure. Good use of shapes, absolutely positively. Composition wise, I like the tilted axis. That's very cool. It makes it a little bit unsettling. It makes it just a little bit not difficult to look at, but I think unsettling is the best word I could come up with. So good work there. Your use of repeated shapes, of course, they're everywhere in this image for sure. Let's see, you're using perspective, linear perspective, actually, which is a converging of lines. And in this case, it's the edges of the banister get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until they reach a vanishing point. In this case, a vanishing point would be out of the picture, and instead your eye is picked up by the tiles. So nice job there. the leading line, and again, the rhythm of the banisters, the rhythm of the steps, even the rhythm of the big blocks on the floor to the right echoes the blocks of the landing. So composition-wise, really, really good. Really, really good. I also like the really thin line of the steps up at the top of the image. It keeps you moving all the way down. Go up, Joe, up and to the right. That little strip of steps there makes your eye continue. If it was the banister up there, it would be a block, but it isn't. So good work there. You have the eye moving right through the image. Artistically, good use of shapes and lines. Again, the tilted horizon I liked. Let's see, the unsettled feeling and the kind of the grittiness adds to that unsettled feeling. So I like that. Processing. I think I know that at the top of the steps, I'm sorry, at the top of the banister, that little white mark was on it. I understand that, but look how it jumps out when it's brought to your attention. And you don't want anything to stop the people's eyes from going all the way down, all the way down. So just wipe that out. The other ones you see are darker. It's a darker value, a lesser value. So just the big one, I think I would wipe out and see what you think of that idea. I don't want the viewer to stop. I want him to go all the way down. So good work. Check out MC Escher. And who did this one?
Hey, Mike Donovan. Can you hear me, Mike?
I can.
Yep, that's Escher was in my mind when I took it, and
Oh,
when
good.
I revisited it, that's exactly what I wanted people to have, that unsettled feeling. Because I did make some adjustments in it in Lightroom to straighten some things, which made it a little bit even more uncomfortable for the viewer. But I intentionally wanted to do that. I also did exactly what you said. I darkened that square down below there to draw the viewer in. That was intentional. So you caught that. I appreciate that. I started to use a little bit with silver effects to get that grittiness. So that's what you see in that. I used that Silver Effects Pro to do that. I took it at the American Art Museum in Washington a number of years ago. But yeah, I cleaned it up as much as possible. So I got rid of the specks that were in there. And you were spot on in your description. That's exactly what my intention was to do that. I mean, it was really difficult that one banister, I wish I could have given a little bit less convergence at near the bottom, but I could not lean over any further. So didn't want to risk falling, but I did try to wipe out that lightness of the banister at the beginning. I didn't work hard enough on that, but I think that you're right. It does make you stop a little bit before and working your way down. So I will work a little bit harder and getting rid of that. That's really hard to get rid of them when you have that glare on there. If you have some suggestions on a way to do that without taking anything away from the texture, that's the hard part. I could smooth it out, but it was difficult to do. But yeah, your comments were spot on, and yes, it was Escherisk. That was the intent.
Well, the part that I'm looking at with the glow, that's fine. To the left of that, there's a white spot, just a dot.
Oh, yeah, I can get rid of that.
Yeah, I think that'll help. I think that will make people look even more smoothly down your banister.
I missed that. Okay, will do. Thanks.
Okay, Joe. Berger House. Berger Haus Fortress. Let's go with that. Technically, it's hard for me to judge sharpness on the computer screen. So I haven't really said too much about it, because what happens is when you put it on the website to submit it, it gets softer, or if you have a smaller image you want to enlarge to size to submit, it gets softer. So I haven't said much about it. I'm guessing that when you look at it at home on your computer screen, it looks sharp. So let's put that to the wayside right now. Each section is exposed well. You'll see, if you remember, I talked about burning out a wall a couple images ago. Here's what I mean about not burning out a wall. It's white, but it still has detail, so you're good there. I like the foreground, middle ground, and background all kind of in one little section there. Let's see. The sunshine on the road in the back, there's still detail there, so that's good work. That's very good work. Let's see. It's cleaned up, and I don't want to become known for just only looking for spots and not doing anything else looking at your picture. Again, I make prints. So when I print and there's a mark, it's there. This is a clean image. It looks really good as far as that goes. Composition wise is a great use of shapes. Again, foreground, middle ground, and background. The placement of the flower is just perfect to lead a person's eye through the image. You don't stop there because the window is close enough to pull you to the next thing, then to the edge of the building, then to the window frame in the building in the back. It just pulls you right through. One thing I do like about the placement of the flower is that it's right under the light. And I was imagining what that would look like at night. And I bet it's absolutely beautiful. Now, if you've traveled in Europe, you know that there are red begonias everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. So this is perfect. Let's see. The perspective, as far as depth in the image, it's provided by the smaller size of the windows in the back. So you start with the big archway, then the medium-sized window, then the smaller window, and the smaller one is a little bit soft. That's called atmospheric perspective. When the background is a little softer, that puts it even farther back, and that's called atmospheric perspective. Let's see. Art-wise, again, your use of red is really good. Really, really good. It's not obnoxious. It's leading, and it helps the viewer go into the image. I like the curves versus the angles. There's a subtle hint of color in this image. If you'll look at the stone wall in the front where the sun is on it, you can see a little bit of tan. There's a little bit of tan on the edge of the building in the middle as well. So your use of color is really nice there. It's calm, it's peaceful. Good work. Let's see. It's a clean print. I mentioned checking the sharpness. One thing I would consider is at the top of the archway, you see how they cut off the window there. I would try removing that window and see what you think. See if it makes it a cleaner image. The window kind of fights with the archway right now because, I'll say this word again, they're similar value. So it makes it look like the window might be attached or fighting as far as color goes. So wipe that out and see what you think. If you like it better like this, put it back in. Okay, who did this one?
This one is, excuse me, for Elaine Shook. She produced this picture, and she's not here tonight, so she typed up a little note for me to
Okay.
explain the image. This was taken outside the Bergenhus fortress in Bergen, Norway. She did this about 5 years ago. She absolutely loved the view, and but she really had a real problem with the light. The light was originally over here. And what it did, it had a convergence with this building. And that just, she put it in her junk bin, so to speak, because she never really liked it. And so what she did was she, now that she had the tools in Photoshop became more robust, she was able to take and do object selection of that light and pick it up and move it over to here. And that was one of the things she did because it balanced the image and it didn't have the convergence here, which she was trying to get away from. The other thing that she did, this was a typical tourist garbage can. So she used Photoshop's generative fill and said, put in a bucket of red flowers. And that's what she did. And she did, the only other thing she did to it, she made some minor adjustments on exposure, clarity, and contrast in Lightroom Classic. And that's what she did.
So what you're saying is I'm never going to see those flowers lit up at night by the lamp.
No, but boy, I'll tell you, that would be cool if you lit the lamp and then had the light coming down on it. Wouldn't that be cool? Whoa. So,
All right, let's go on.
okay. All right, here we go. Oh, wait a minute.
Number 7 is the tall one. As far as technical goes, the exposure is really quite good. There's shadow detail. The mountaintop is just a bit hot. I don't know if it's because of the screen or not, but you know, that can be fixed. Could be, as I said, the monitor. The rim lighting on the hat is really beautiful. And also on the sticks there, the wooden beams on the top, on the left, very, very nice. The rim lighting is excellent. It looks very painterly, like there was maybe a filter or some kind of a preset used. Very, very nice. And I think it's appropriate here because of the age, the time of history that the person was going for. The composition is well balanced. The hat actually echoes the mountain, which is very cool. So it leads from the hat to the middle layer back to the mountain. That's nice when your eye can go into the image. The desk on the right and on the left, it's not a desk exactly. I'm not sure what it is. They kind of echo each other. There's some triangulation there. You see the triangle on the left. The mountain is a triangle. The hat is a triangle. So triangulation is a good compositional tool for sure. The layers create the depth. You have a layer in the very front, which some people might say, oh, that should be sharp. Well, I don't mind it because of the overall smoothness of the image. But you have a layer in the front, you have a layer under the hat, you have a layer past the hat, out at the mountain, out at the big mountain, and so on. And layers always are good for depth, for sure. I like the branches. They are a good counterpoint to the beautiful soft light on the lower left. The branches balance out on the top right. Artistically, it's really a nice color palette. Very, very natural and vintage. It has a story. It makes you wonder what they're doing way out in the middle of nowhere. Who is it? Is it really a cowboy? It's calm, it's peaceful, and the brown and orange color palette make it calm and peaceful. Now, as far as processing goes, just a few suggestions. In the lower left, there's like a thread or something sticking up there. I would remove that. It's down below, Joe. Right to the right of, yeah, right there. I would get rid of that because it's silhouetted and it makes it jump out. So just wipe that out. And one other thing I would suggest, you're going for a certain vibe. Well, on the right, there's a laptop computer. And what I would do is darken that keyboard or remove the keyboard. Nobody will know that that's a screen there. It'll just look like some dark thing leaning up against. But definitely get rid of the keyboard because that suddenly snaps us back to reality. It's a clean print. Right above where Joe showed you that little thread thing sticking up out of the bottom there, There's one or two white spots that have a pretty high value, but you might notice they don't leap out really hard because they're not picking up the white value of the mountain. They're a little bit lesser value, so they won't jump forward quite so much. But wipe those out too and see what you think of that. Let's see. Instead of wiping them out, maybe just darken them. Who took the picture?
Thank you, Mike. Dick Messner here.
That's very
That is
cool.
That is Mount Denali, which the Native Americans called the Tall One. It's 35 miles from the cabin that I stayed in for 1 week in first week of September last year. Very interesting time there. We had a wet snowstorm that morning. And when we got back in the middle of the afternoon, I went in to change my clothes. The hat is actually a leather hat that is wet, but the sky was clearing up. I turned around and saw the picture, snapped it, and walked away from it.
No, you did good.
Thanks for your comments.
You're welcome. Okay, Joe, number 8. Timeless beauty. As far as technical goes, it's crisp, it's sharp, which is what you want when you're dealing with detail. And this is what's called, you've heard the term high key and low key. This is what's called a high key exposure, which is a fancy way of saying it's light. So a good choice there on the high key exposure. I was looking, and I could be totally wrong about this because I have been before. I'm not sure about the horizon line. And I know there really isn't one, but I still debated whether it could be straightened or not. But probably if you do that, you ruin the tree. So let's leave that as is. Let's see. A lot of values in here. There's down at the bottom of the tree, there's a little bit of black. Up in some of the bark, there's almost white. And lots and lots and lots of values in between. So that makes a black and white photograph rich. Let's see. Beautiful curves in the trees, composition-wise. The branches make the frame, because it is the theme of being in a frame. The background on the leafy side is leafy. The background of the, let's say, the dead side of the tree is more dead looking. So I like that. It may not have been on purpose, but it matches up, the background matches up to the actual tree itself. So that's kind of cool. In fact, that's very cool. The foreground bushes give a rhythm, as do the curves in the tree. Very nice there. The sky is absolutely smooth and beautiful, and it is a perfect backdrop for all that busyness of the tree, all that activity, all that action. And this tree is a good example of diagonal lines denoting action or activity or motion. Very, very good there. The tree is almost noble looking. Black and white is a good choice. You are providing depth with perspective, in this case, atmospheric perspective. See, the background's a little softer than the tree. Very well done. Loads of value, even though it's a high key work. You're revealing the details. You have a clean print. The sky looks just clean as could be. Good job. Who did this?
That one's mine, Joan Smith.
Well, it's awesome.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you very much. The rocks in the back, of course, is Sedona. And I was on the road when I sent this in, so I actually processed this on my laptop, which is not the best thing to do when you're used to a bigger screen. The rock that's framed is the famous Cathedral Rock in Sedona. So It was kind of a planned shot. It wasn't one I turned around and looked at and said, "Oh my gosh, it's happening."
Yeah.
But thank you for your comments. I did want to submit this to get your opinion on printing it, because this is one I'd like to print from my trip. So I'm glad that it looks like it'll print well.
Try a print, and if you don't like the high key, try I don't know if you use the curves at all, or you can use the contrast slider. If you don't like how the print looks, try some more contrast.
Okay.
Okay?
I will do that.
All right.
Yeah, I did have one question now, if I can think of what it was, in the printing process, but I can't think of what it was now. So if I do, I'll email you or something.
Okay. Well, you got my sympathy, because I get halfway down the basement steps and forget what I'm going for. So
Well, I was sitting here thinking about it, and then you said the next thing, and it was like, okay, what was I gonna ask him?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm with you.
but I do have this in color too, so I think I'm gonna try printing it in both.
Yeah, you're the artist. You do what you think.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you very much. I
You're welcome.
appreciate it.
Okay, Joe.
Okay.
The arches. Again, be very careful of, and this could be, like I said, because it's on computer, be careful of your sharpness, your focus. Something that's a little bit, I'm not sure how or why this happened, but it can be fixed, is you'll notice that it's darker under the arch. The sky is darker under the arch than it is above the arch. Now, it could be a storm was coming, or whatever the case might be. Maybe you can explain it later. But that, like I said, that can be fixed. You make a selection in there, or just go over it with a brush to lighten it a little bit. Not a big issue. But you did not burn anything out, so that's really good. There's a little bit of darkness in the tree leaves, but that's fine. Composition wise, good use of the arches to frame the riverboat back there. The red pulls your eye right through the arches, right back to the riverboat. There's repeated curves and verticals and horizontals, so that adds to your composition as well. The bridge supports are also frames. Now, one thing I want to mention is back in the very back, there's two bridge supports that are kind of bright. And a little later, I'm going to mention maybe to darken those down a little bit. Your color combination of orange and blue is always a good one. Always a good one. The orange makes the blue look better, and the blue makes the orange look better. The warm color, cool color thing always does work pretty well. Your tree leaves are a natural frame. Let's see. And I see that on the right, they kind of drop to match the pillar and go out of the image to match the bridge. Let's see, processing wise, I would darken those two bridge pillars way in the back. I would darken those. I would check your sharpening, or something else that happens when you make an image and it's fairly small, and then you enlarge it, then it starts getting soft for you. Check it in the original size and see what happens there. Let's see. I mentioned the pillars in the back. Oh, the reflections. The reflections look really good as well. So check the under the arches there. It's probably a cloud, but under the arch that's above the bridge, yeah, there's a little white line there. Get rid of that. That is a little bit of something you don't want a viewer to bother with. Other than that, I think you're good. Check your sharpness. If you want to darken it just slightly, this is an example of a high key color image. Maybe try darkening just a bit. Who did this one?
Joe, that's Mary. I did that one, and on my computer it was sharp. I'm not sure what happened.
Yeah, that's a problem with doing it like this. You're right.
well, whatever, but thank you very much. As far as the darkness on those arches, the blue, I never noticed that until you brought it up. I never noticed they were darker, and
Sorry.
the little white blip, I will happily take that out
Okay.
and darken those little pillars. I never noticed the pillars were so bright there. In fact, I'd probably like to take them out altogether.
Yeah, that would work too.
But the reason I took the photo initially was because I like the reflections.
Yeah, yeah, I do too. I
That
do
was
too.
my whole key there. But thank you very much, Mike. I appreciate all your help.
Ah, you're welcome. Okay, Joe, skip that one. And number, is this 11? Yeah, caged. The exposure is just rich and beautiful. The colors are rich. The flower is in absolutely wonderful focus. The fence is the teeniest bit soft, but in this case, it doesn't really hurt. It doesn't really hurt. The composition is symmetrical. Now, if you're going for total symmetry, then do the best you can to make it totally symmetrical. I'm looking at the fence on the bottom and the fence on the top. And it looks like you either removed or cloned one of the wires that wraps around, but didn't do it on top. So just clone out the wrap around, the very little tiny bit on top. You're good to go. Again, the color is just so rich. I like the radial lines of the flower petals. Your use of color with warm colors and cool colors. And I don't know if anybody's ever noticed how much that comes into play in nature, warm color as opposed to cool color. Really, really a lot. A yellow tulip and green leaves, a purple and yellow iris, red and green holly bushes. The cool, warm, cool color combination is prevalent, really. So good work there. I like the straight lines as opposed to the organic lines. That's good. Processing. I would crop the right side in a teeniest little bit to match the left side. Again, I mentioned at the top with the wires to match the top to the bottom. There's two lighter areas I would try to darken a little bit. One is right there, and the other is top right. I would either darken those or cut back on the highlights or something so that they don't fight with your main image. Because again, the value of those spots is brighter, more towards number one, than the value of all the dots on the flower. And it's certainly brighter than the value of the petals. So those are my suggestions there. There's a couple spots on a leaf on the bottom left, but that's easy to take out. You can take care of that. Okay, who did this one?
Mike, that's me, Patty Volpe. Thanks for your comments on this. It was just a fun image walking around the block one day.
Mm-hmm. Well, your colors are absolutely wonderful.
Nature provided.
Isn't that the truth? You're right.
Right?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep,
Thank you
it's
so
our
much.
job to find it.
Yeah, I will make some changes on the image. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Joe, last one. Well house under arch. Technically, the technical side of it is so smooth. The lighting is so like an overcast day is like the biggest softbox that ever was. It takes care of shadows, but you see there's still some detail here. No hot spots. Details are showing. And once I mention this, you might not be able to unsee it. I see the subject of this as the door in the well house, because that's got a value that just jumps right to you. So good job there. Composition wise, there's a nice interplay between curves and vertical lines, and even some diagonals with the bricks. I like the fact that the roof line of the well house echoes the roof line of the second arch. That's a nice rhythm there, a nice repeating of shapes. Let's see. The color palette is again a warm and cool. It's an orange and green combination, a warm and cool color. In this case, two secondary colors, which works out just fine. The beige door, to me, is the subject of the photograph, and the layers just lead back to that. There's a green layer, there's a darker green layer, there's an orange layer, there's another green layer, and pow, you're at the door. So very, very good there. Let's see, processing. I said I would remove, oh, at the bottom, there's like two pebbles there, but they're only halfway on to the right and down. To the left, not that far. On the bottom left side, yeah, I would think I would take that one, and there's one to its left about 2 feet, maybe. Yeah, I would take them out because of what I mentioned before. They're only part way in the image. And the same at the top right. There's a little white bar sticking in that I would remove that because that's only partly in the image, and I don't like the lighter value taking away from the door. The crop on top, I want you to try, if you have room, try lifting that crop a little bit and let a bit of a border between the bricks and the top of the image. See what you think of that idea. And one last thing, if you print it and it's a little flat, yeah, I would try and let a little more stone up there. But if you think it's a little flat, try a little more contrast. I mentioned the curves filter before, so see what you think. But I like that it's calm, it's peaceful, and it's old. Something else I would pay a little bit of attention to is in the second curve at about, I guess, 1 o'clock. There, it looks like white paint almost. Maybe you want, yeah, maybe you want to deal with that because that'll take away from what you want to say with the building in the back. So either darken it or maybe remove it, whatever you decide to do. Okay, who did this one?
That'd be Jim. I appreciate the comments, Mike. I actually submitted the wrong version of this. I do have a version with bricks up top
Oh, good.
that looks a lot better.
Okay.
Learning what I learned after the cave trip, I think I can take that white splotch out on that second arch.
Yeah,
See what that looks like. What about the white spots on the roof of the well house?
Well, it never hurts to remove something that you notice and you don't want to notice. And besides, with digital, you take them out, you look at it. I don't like that. You just don't save it.
All right.
So yeah, anything that, am I right that the door and the windows are actually an important part of your subject?
Yeah, I shot that specifically to get the well house.
Okay, so then yeah, in that case, I would remove those white spots on the roof.
Okay. So I had the other version I have is a lot warmer, Mike. What do you think about warming this up?
Does it make it look any less old?
It does.
Well, then if you're going for old, then this beige look is the ticket because it looks almost like old film.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay.
Yep. And one thing I noticed, I was actually talking to Joe about this when I took the picture. The ground was wet and muddy, and I couldn't get down low enough to get the entire roof of the well house under that arch.
Yeah.
So it's Lockridge State Park out east. So when I go back there again, I'm going to redo this shot and get down lower, get the whole well house, see how that looks.
That'll be cool. And remember, I always say shoot loose.
Where
and then
was
you can
that?
crop later.
That was Lockridge State Park.
Okay,
Thank
that's
you very
it.
much. Appreciate it.
Ah, you're very welcome. Joe, that's the last one.
That is. Mike, thank you so much. Let's everybody unmute yourself and let's give a big round of applause. for
Thanks, Mike.
The more
Thank you, Mike.
effort Mike put into this.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Ah,
Thanks,
you're
Mike.
all
Once
welcome.
again, I learned a lot.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Super
I hope it
job,
made
Mike.
sense.
Appreciate your
Very
time.
good program,
Thanks,
everybody.
Mike.
Thank you.
Mike, we all know how much effort you put into this and we really appreciate it.
Ah,
Thank you.
thanks.
Sure thing. Okay, folks, that's it. You'll get our email tomorrow morning with a recording and you will with a listing of the activities that are coming up. Thank you all and have a great evening.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, everybody.
Joe,
Thank you,
thanks
thank
for bailing me out on that.
No problem, Mike.
I'm not sure what happened.